So let's have a look at consolidation in Steel Designer Pro in more detail. For those that haven't used Steel Designer Pro's consolidation, in the past we used to have a tree structure. That tree structure has now been pushed aside, and we've moved on to table type structures with a tree embedded in it. And that gives us more performance. The code behind has also had an increased performance gain. Not only can you now consolidate as you work, you can consolidate at the end, and if you make any changes, it will automatically keep consolidating as you work. Now, the process of consolidation is based on having two components with two different file names being identical. So what Steel Designer Pro does is it will assign a mark number to those items that are identical within their category. So if you've got two plates that are identical, that means that those two plates will be consolidated under the same mark number. Same with sections and same with vendor items. Now, plates and sections typically used to use data links, and data links are a feature that used to be inserted within components. We've now removed data links altogether, and consolidation manages what data links used to do. Data links have now been replaced by consolidation. When you consolidate a component, it fires the code for the data link. So let's have a look at the consolidation interface. You can see that on the right hand side we've got our components that have been consolidated. We also have our welded members that have been consolidated. For those that are new to Steel Designer Pro, components are consolidated together and welded members are consolidated, but they are not consolidated in such that two file names are compared. They are only consolidated in welded members by the assembly being an instance of the same. So say for instance I have over here on the left hand side I have columns 1, and you can see in the brackets here 1 as being the first instance. Now if I'd had two columns with a second instance, it would group them in 2. So on the right hand side here you can see under welded members that there are 2 beam 3s. Now I'm just going to go through how and the way that you can manipulate the interface to give you what you want. If you grab, say, the comp type, and you can pull it up and drag it, you can group by the comp type. So that means that our plates can be sorted and grouped by selecting either mark or by description. So if you grab the header of the table, I can sort my descriptions and click that, and that'll give me a list of all of my components sorted within the order of their descriptions, or vice versa, mark. So that allows us to move things around relatively easy. We can also group, if we wanted to, by description as well. So if you wanted to, just grab description and drag that up. And that sets up two different levels of grouping for you to be able to see how these items may be presented as the same material, or same description, or same grade. Depends on how you would like to group. If you right mouse click on the header, you can clear the grouping. If you look at plate number 1, there are 90 of those components, and if we push the plus sign, you can see that these are the 90 components that have been collected. Each one of these components has obviously the same properties in its mass, volume, surface area, and center of mass. If we click on any one of these, you can see as we go it highlights, but you'll notice that there is one green one. Now this green one that's in here is called the parent component. In a tree structure there is always a parent and a child relationship. If the parent changes, it will now take the parent and add it to the end as a changed component and give it a new mark. One of the components inside here will remain with the plate 1 mark, and it will take on that ownership. So changing a parent used to be something that we kept off to the side. We tried to prevent from changing, and it was important that we did not change the parent. But if we did change the parent, then a new mark would be assigned to that. If we've issued drawings to a customer, the last thing you want to do is to change the parent if you can't avoid it. But if you can change the parent, then now it will give it a new mark if it is different. from the rest of the consolidated components under that mark. Okay, so now that we can select these items in the tree, we can right mouse click and a menu will come up with the right mouse click. We can now see the history of the component. Now, history is based on issuing your document, your PDF, to the fab shop, to the fabrication shop, to your customer. So now you can see the complete history of when that document was issued. We can isolate those components as well. If we click on the isolate components, you can see that just by clicking on that, it'll isolate that one component because I'm down in the tree and it now has isolated that component. You can see it is a girt cleat. If I tick up in the right corner, there's a box and you select that, exit isolate, that'll take you back the model and bring you out of isolation. We also have select, of course, which is part of it. So if you right mouse click, you can go down to select component. I've jumped a couple here, I will come back to those. And you can see that it's selected that component. Oh, mind you, this model is also a work in progress. If we wanted to select all of the components in the tree that have the same mark, or even isolate those, if we actually right mouse click on the consolidated marked component with all the components underneath, we get the same pull down menu when we right mouse click. And here we can go down and we can go select component. Now that'll go through and select all of those 90 components in our tree structure. Now each one of these components, as I said before, are identical in their properties, but they have different file names. But they may have different file names in groups. So for this particular instance, I know it's a girt cleat, but all my girt cleats in one particular column have the same file name. But if I was to go over to the next column has a different file name. Even though that those components are identical, it has consolidated them with different file names.